NASCAR trying to go international. Formula One making a bid for Chicago. We'll talk about all that and more next. How's it going, guys? I'm Tyler Isley. Welcome back to Racing Pulse. You hear the dog in the background. You're going to see her quite a bit. Anyways, we've got a lot to talk about today, so let's go ahead and get right into it. We're going to start with I don't know if it's the biggest news of the day, but it's definitely some interesting news. And this is that Formula One has applied for the trademark for the Chicago Grand Prix, which, as you know, would mean that they would be attempting to race in Chicago. Now, the Chicago mayor has said that they're still a ways away from a deal being made for Formula One to race in the city. But it's interesting, okay, because this comes at a time where NASCAR just tried to do this last year. It worked out really well. It seemed to gain a lot of traction, get a lot of eyes. But people aren't sure what the future of NASCAR in Chicago is. Now, I've heard a lot of people already with this news trying to make the comparison and trying to say that means that, NASCAR and Formula One are going to have a doubleheader weekend. I don't think that's how that's going to work. If I'm being completely honest, I don't think that's even remotely close to true. Now, I don't know how it's going to work, whether or not the city of Chicago is going to want to shut down for multiple weekends in a season. That I don't know exactly what the true answer is for the sport. So in saying all of that, it feels kind of like a pipe dream at the moment. We don't really know what's going to happen, whether or not Chicago's going to host Formula One, or really, at this point, we don't know what the future is of NASCAR in Chicago beyond the few years they've promised. We don't know beyond this year. We really don't know beyond 2025. I believe it's still supposed to come back next year. But we don't know beyond that if that's going to be renewed or if they're going to make a move elsewhere. Now, this is the only application for a trademark that I know of, but I do know there were more made by F1. So this is more so just getting the foot in the door, getting the idea out there, and then we will see exactly what that brings going forward. I thought it was really interesting. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are below about Formula One in Chicago, potentially in the future, if it happens. We move from an international racing series to NASCAR going international. They are looking at a points race on an international level, whether that's in Canada, Mexico, or elsewhere. We know that NASCAR is kind of expanding its footprint a little bit with all the smaller series that they have down at the lower level in these countries. Obviously, the most notable is the NASCAR Pinty series. It's going to be really interesting. I think the most ideal place is to go to Canada, because that's kind of been where the footprint's been for the majority of the time. The Penny series is really gaining popularity. But I want to go through this article that Jim Utter posted on motorsport.com. And this is a quote from Chad Siegler, NASCAR's vice president and chief international officer, in this article. For years, we said we want to go outside the U.S. and race. You've seen us move from the messaging of it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. I would tell you that we're leaning even closer now to yes, we are going, and I feel confident we're going to be there sooner rather than later. It does feel like NASCAR is going to make that move very, very soon. It really is a matter of when, and maybe this Chicago race is the one that opened the door for a race elsewhere. Maybe NASCAR goes and runs up in Montreal on the course up there. We don't know exactly what it's going to look like. I don't think anybody really has a great idea of what the interior side of things is going to look like within this international move. But I am super excited to see what happens, and for the Cup Series to be able to do that, because we've seen the Cup Series do these exhibition races, and this was decades ago. I mean, this is close to 25 years ago now, over 25 years ago now, that we saw the NASCAR Cup Series run exhibition races over in Japan. They also ran one in Australia back in 1988. I think it's a little lesser known and lesser talked about, but they did run one back in Australia in 1988. The Cup Series has, in the past, contrary to popular belief, ran points races at an international level. Two of them, to be exact. In Canada back in the 1950s, Stamford Park in Ontario in 1952, and the Canadian Exposition Stadium in 1958. NASCAR going international is something that they've been trying to do. They've been talking about it. There's a reason they're letting these international drivers get in the seats. It's to gain traction in other countries, to become a international entity rather than just an American entity. It's going to happen, and even reading these quotes kind of just further boosted that understanding that it is going to happen. We just don't know when yet. Will it be in the next 5 years? Will it be in the next 10? We don't know, but I would say it won't take any longer than 10 to see at least one international race implemented. I'm going to say we probably see one in the next 5 years, if I'm being completely honest with you. It's going to be extremely exciting to see what that looks like. I'm really excited for NASCAR going forward. Now, we are going to get into the Rolex 24 just a little bit here. Nothing too crazy. I watched a lot of it. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't... Again, not a lot of takeaways because I don't... It's a little more intricate than I understand. So I'm not going to get into the weeds of everything. But I do want to talk about it because it was filled with phenomenal racing. I mean, it was... truthfully, start to finish, one of the best endurance races I've ever seen. If I'm being completely honest, I was thoroughly impressed with the entirety of this race. It was super fun to watch, and to continue to get to learn more and more about these cars, these drivers, and make these connections between the IndyCar series and this series. Obviously, we saw Scott Dixon, Scott McLaughlin, Tom Blomqvist, a ton of guys out there running competitively for the win. Joseph Newgarden was able to come home in his Penske Porsche with the overall victory with the help of Felipe Nasr, who was the driver at the end of the race. It was a battle all the way to the end. But what's a great race without just a little bit of controversy? And that was the ending. The race ended a minute and a half early. Not sure why. The checkered flag flew extremely late. I guess the white flag flew. I never saw the white flag drop at any point in the broadcast. And it caught everybody off guard. Why did this happen? Well, IMSA has released a statement about it, and I'm going to read the statement to you guys. This I also pulled from motorsport.com. Due to an officiating error in race control, IMSA inadvertently announced it and subsequently displayed the white flag with under 3 minutes remaining in the race. At the end of the lap, the race-leading number 7 GTP car then received a checkered flag with 1 minute 35 seconds still remaining, ending the race short of the planned 24 hours by basically a lap. Based on Article 49 of the 2024 IMSA Sporting Regulations and Standard Supplementary Regulations, should the checker flag be inadvertently or otherwise displayed before the leading car completes the scheduled number of laps or before the prescribed time has been completed, the race is nevertheless deemed ended when that flag is displayed. The checker flag ends the race, of course. It was one of the most confusing ends to the race. Now, it ended at 1:40 p.m., as was the expected start time. But the start time was actually 1:42 p.m. on Saturday. Therefore, that's where the confusion came in, from my understanding. Extremely, extremely weird. I don't remember this ever happening in the past. I don't believe it has. And I don't think it's ever going to happen again. I think that this is kind of that one little embarrassing moment, and then you move forward. Does this affect anything in the race? I don't truly believe so. Tom Blomqvist was behind by about 2 seconds when the flag was displayed behind Felipe Nasr in the Penske Porsche. It was not. It was, the gap was increasing between the number 7 and number 31. Blomqvist wasn't going to get back there. So I don't think it truly affected the overall race. I don't really believe it affected any of the races. It seemed as though things were scattering about. It's just extremely interesting to have seen that happen at such a high level. And I really do look forward, because obviously the next race that they extremely were advertising was the 12 Hours of Sebring later in March. And I'm super excited for that. I can't wait to watch it. But it seems as though that we're going to watch then and see exactly what happens. Maybe they just play the white flag later than they should. Sometimes those things happen. But I just think they're going to get it right. I think that's the one mistake they needed to get going forward. But it's also the mistake they needed, in my opinion, to get more eyes on the series, They always say that any publicity is good publicity, and I think that that's going to carry on similarly here with the IMSA series. I don't see any reason for this to harm the overall product in any way, shape, or form. Now, I would like to close this video off by congratulating the winners of the Rolex 24 individually. They got a good bit of publicity, but I'm gonna read off their names and the teams that were able to win, because I thought there were some cool stories behind this. Start with Porsche Penske Motorsport in the GTP class. They were, of course, led to the end by Felipe Nasr. Joseph Newgarden was also in that car, along with Matt Campbell and Dane Cameron. It was a really good effort from them. They were pretty dominant throughout the night, and then it felt like they fell off at the end of the race. As the time dwindled down, as the sun and the track got hotter, it felt like they kind of fell off. They found a way to get it to the end of the race, and they found a way to get to the end of the race with the win. So super excited. Really, really great effort from the Porsche Penske Motorsport guys to be able to hold off and get the win. We moved to the LMP2 class, where Era Motorsport was able to get the win. They were driven by Christian Rasmussen to the finish line, Dwight Merriman, Ryan Dalzell, and newest Trackhouse signee Connor Zilisch able to get the win in the LMP2 class. Again, with Era Motorsport, it was a really cool story. They were able to hold off a late charge as well and get themselves a Rolex. We move on to the GTD Pro class, which was Risi Competizione, who was the story of this race. This is their first win in Ferrari at the Rolex 24, a team that has had so much history in this sport. Really excited for them. It was a really cool story to hear them talk about through the course of the last couple hours of the race. They kind of went and talked about it throughout the race, but especially late in the race when it looked like it was all theirs. It was really cool to see. They were driven by Alessandro Pierre Guidi, James Collado, Daniel Serra, and David Regon. Really excited for them again, and congratulations to them. And then lastly, it was Windward Racing in the GTD class, driven by Daniel Morad, Russell Ward, Philippe Ellis, and Indy Donche. I don't know if I said that right. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I said that right. I think I did. But thinking and knowing are two different things. So I don't know for sure if I got that right, but I'm hoping I did. I tried really hard. I spent about 5 minutes before I recorded this segment trying to get that right. So hopefully I got it right. If not, I'm sorry. But those are your winners from the Rolex 24. Again, it was a great race, as I said when I kind of previewed the race in the channel intro video. This race is so fun to watch how people get to the end. They always talk about how you drive the car at 80%, 100% of the time, just to be able to get through the race and get to the end. But this race, it just felt like from the moment the green flag dropped, it was exciting. There were guys who were going for it from hour one all the way to the end, and some cars didn't make it to the end due to incidents and other things. Some of their doing, some not. But it was just super fun to watch this race. I mean, everybody, you're putting qualifying laps down, lap in, lap out. How you manage your tires. You have 32 stints and like 21 sets of tires, I think they said. You got a double stint tires. It's just crazy to watch how this goes down and how much engineering prowess it takes to be able to do it. If you haven't watched it, I suggest watching it again next year. I'm super excited. I'm actually so looking forward to the 12 Hours of Sebring. I know it's during NASCAR season, but I'm going to watch the 12 Hours of Sebring. I'm going to have a great time with it. Super excited. If you haven't been introduced to MC yet, I really recommend it. It's an amazing series. It's got a lot of great drivers, a lot of smart people within it. It's just it's unmatched for what it does. It really is. So with all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank everybody. I didn't get a chance to do this on the last video, but the thumbnail for our last video, that picture was provided by Jeremy Zarfos at Jeremy Zarfos Photography. And I said it wrong. I asked him how to pronounce his name, and I just did it wrong again. Jeremy Zarfos at Jeremy Zarfos Photography. There we go. I got it right this time. Thank you guys so much. Next video. I know I said next video during the sprint car preview. This time it is the next video. Tomorrow's video, NASCAR 2024 season preview. Be there. See you next time.